some polls.
What? What's going on, guys? It's Nathan. Welcome to episode number 34 of Hyperspace Hype. We have quite the range of discussion that pretty much majority of the episode will just be kind of frustrating. But no, there's some good stuff to get into, especially in regards to the Mandalorian Season 2, which I'm excited to discuss. Joining us, as always, we have Carson.
What's going on, guys? Good to be back. You know, yesterday we were talking the spice opera, and today we're talking the space opera. So, you know, I'm happy. Yeah, we got some Mandalorian, you know, first look, Baby Yoda in his wonderful satchel. I can't wait to talk about that. And then, you know, J.J. Abrams back on J.J. Abrams. So, you know, fun stuff, some other stuff, some rants, some discussions. It's all here. I'm ready.
To that point, quick plug. I today uploaded a video where I did a recut of the Dune trailer in the style of the final Force Awakens trailer, and I think it's pretty fun. So if you have any intrigue by that, if you like mashup trailers, you can check that out. It's the most recent upload. But with that being said, also joining us, we have Evan.
I concur with that because I saw it and it was pretty awesome. But yeah, glad to be back. Whenever we talk about Trost, it's so funny because I'm like, I always try and give that movie some space. I'm like, I'm not going to watch it again. I'm not going to, whatever, yeah. But then they always pull me back in. It's like John Wick. They always keep pulling me back in.
Just when I thought I was out.
Exactly. So yeah, I got a lot of rants incoming. Mostly negative, but we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's get into that specific point because funny enough, I actually ran a poll for this, which is fun. So I'll cue it up. But yeah, it was through an interview on, I don't know if it was Kimmel or something, but I know Josh Gad was hosting, and he got to interview Daisy Ridley, and they, of course, dived into Star Wars as per usual. Josh Gad also, big kind of associate in the Star Wars universe, having done multiple celebration panels. And also trying to get us leaks from Daisy, which now that the trilogy is over, no hold bar, it's just tell us everything. And there was quite the knowledgeable stuff of throwing around Rey's lineage. There was even specific talks that everybody is talking about of how potentially Rey was going to be related to Obi-Wan at a point. I don't like it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that was the first question I was going to ask you guys. Like, how do you guys feel about Rey Kenobi? And the thing about this is, it just depends on what time people ask me that question. Because after The Force Awakens, I was fine with Rey Kenobi because I didn't have any preconceived notions. I came out of The Force Awakens thinking like two things, basically. I was like, Rey Nobody, which Rey Nobody started to pick up steam for me at least, like around 2017 in the marketing for The Last Jedi, where he had all these Rian Johnson quotes and even J.J. Abrams quotes, where he did some conferences after The Force Awakens talking about how the Force isn't lineage or whatever, all this stuff. But I also really liked Rey Kenobi because of the whole what people still talk about today in terms of Rey and Kylo healing the Kenobi Skywalker relationship in a sense there. And there's a lot of interesting things there. However, when you compare it to Rey Palpatine, you're still asking that central question of like, Rey Kenobi only solves who her grandparents were, not really who her parents were. So we still have to figure out who the mother was, who the father was, ask other just unnecessary questions, especially if you're leading up to the final film. But then, yeah, especially after The Last Jedi, I was fully on Rey Nobody. Like, if in the Rise of Skywalker, if they really wanted to do a Rey Kenobi thing, just set that up in The Last Jedi. But since that wasn't the case, since I was, for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019, I was so involved with Rey Nobody that I was like, okay, that's the perfect ending. And for me, I agree 100% with Rian Johnson. Throughout 2017, he always said, when people asked me, or whenever they asked him about like Rey's lineage, he would always say, I had a piece of notebook paper or whatever, I wrote down every possibility. And I just, I went through each one and thought which one would have the most meaning for Rey. And he ended up on Rey Nobody. And I totally agree with that. I think that's the most thematic, the most well-meaning answer to Rey's lineage for me and for Rey as a character. So that's my take.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, if you would have asked me, my young naive self at the our sophomore in high school when the Force Awakens came out, I'm like writing up theories. I'm like, oh my god, okay. I was like, all this the most random stuff from like, oh, she's like Han Leia's long lost son or daughter, and like they hid away, which turns out is just weirdly resonant now because of the fact that they knew about the Palpatine stuff, which that's just the whole other, whatever. But anyway, so I was all on all those different theories. I was on YouTube, Reddit, watching every video of like every little Easter egg and little thing in the Force vision. Like, what's that tree behind there? I was totally just perplexed by that whole lane. But honestly, when Ryan's movie came out, I think the quote is that was the hardest thing for her to find out. In a lot of ways, that movie's about finding out your heroes and not who they're exactly supposed to be, or your perceived vision of what your hero is going to do for you or help you when you encounter them. And so, a lot of ways, that answer is like that. It's not disappointing. It's challenging, and it makes you realize that you have to take liberty of your own situation and kind of find your mark. And I think that's what The Last Jedi does so well. And so definitively, I'm like, okay, I'm satisfied with that answer. I thought Rey's arc in The Rise of Skywalker was going to all be about now that she has that newfound responsibility and home with that perfectly is encapsulated at the end of The Last Jedi on the Falcon. They have all the pieces. I was curious to see how she would handle that burden now that she is, the Force has rose her up and chosen her in a way that's not respect the lineage that she's kind of engaged in. Yet now she has this huge responsibility as kind of one of the lead fighters of the Resistance. Like, what does that burden do to her and having to become a leader and all that? I really thought the arc, and obviously with all the Ben stuff as well. Because we already have, I've always said we have already had that lineage aspect and the expectations of what lineage and power brings to you in the character of Ben Solo. And I think people overlook that so much in their wish fulfillment over the past 5 years of what they wanted Rey to be. And it's just staggering to like see this come up again. But I guess, so I don't know, but I've kind of made peace with it, honestly. What I haven't made peace with is that they didn't go into this last movie even right before shooting knowing that they wanted to do, and that's and I think it's unfair to Daisy, honestly, that this got as much limelight as it did and continues to even be a question, because I feel like her character could have been so much more empowered in The Rise of Skywalker if it hadn't been like harken back to like, oh, you have his power, you're a Palpatine and all this stuff. And so I feel like that kind of muddles at least my kind of enjoyment of the character of Rey in The Rise of Skywalker, is because they do loop back to these unnecessary things. But I guess the main frustrating thing for me about the story is just like, again, we talk about the word reactionary. It just feels like such a reactionary and uncertain thing. And overall, I just wish this movie had more time. It just sounded like, JJ, it just didn't have time. And, I could be mad at him for the narrative decision too, but like also it just sounds like they were just so unsure because they had to rush into this, and they're like, well, we could just see where it goes. And I guess that was kind of the mentality for T-Ross, was like, let's see where it goes. But that doesn't work all the time, and it doesn't have to, we'll dive into the whole thing of like, oh, the trilogy had to be planned from 2015, which I think is bogus. Obviously our art doesn't work like that in a lot of ways. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it's miraculous and beautiful how it's strung out like that. But a lot of times people are able to come in with their own vision. I just even look at the succession from The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, of how Ryan built off The Force Awakens in congruent but different ways. And so I think passing it back to Abrams, who basically created these new characters for him to just fumble it as bad as he did, it's staggering. It just hurts more and more as we start to hear that, we were kind of naive and foolish to be like, J.J. Abrams has said this about his character since 2015 when J.J. Abrams didn't even know what he wanted to say about his character. So that's just kind of disheartening, and that's where I'm kind of at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially bad when you think back to I think it was JJ's editors or someone that was like calling out Ryan about messing up his plan, but JJ didn't have a plan at all. So what was that? Jerks.
They're defending their guy. Yeah, I remember listening to that interview, and I think it was like on the Light of the Fuse Mission Impossible podcast. And it wasn't a good look because they were just supporting JJ, which of course they're best friends with JJ. They're like family now, editing most of his movies. But yeah, you can't just like diss Ryan, who just because they thought JJ had a plan and everything. But maybe that was just their idea.
Ever. Like
exactly, yeah. It's complicated.
Yeah, but in regards to the lineage, when I was a young warthog, there was I was on the camp of like connections because I didn't know that.
Wow.
No, seriously though, I was full Rey Skywalker in the sense of being related to Luke. Now I got Rey Skywalker in the way I didn't, but
when were you a Rey Skywalker? Post Last Jedi, Force Awakens?
Like right after Force Awakens, I'd say. Like primarily going in, I was like I had all my hype on Finn. The trailers weren't like overly like check out this Rey person. That was the whole saved reveal. So when I was watching, I was like, oh, this is fascinating, and like it was a whole lead up to Luke and stuff. I was like, oh, well, maybe she's related to Luke. But then and I was like all in the well of like exploring theories and things, like primarily around 2016 when it would even be at the point where like, is the Rogue One crew the Knights of Ren? Like
I love that theory.
Look at these compelling evidences.
It's so good.
But
they would be so old.
Right. And then I went to Rogue One. I was like, oh well.
The worst was that back to tank. Oh my god, I was obsessed with that.
Back to tank.
He's in the smoke. He's in the back to tank.
Oh right, and they all
The Rogue One
connections for like it's all time. No, it's
it was Vader.
I think at most the connection is like there's a rock on Snoke's ring from Vader's castle or something.
Yeah, the obsidian ring.
Yeah. But no. Either way, in terms of lineage, it was interesting because at the time I wasn't even a Reylo yet. I was a Finn Rey. Now I'm talking ships, but I was going in, and it's funny because even I was like looking back at the my reactions to the final Last Jedi trailer, and there's a little moment like right at the end when Ben offers her hand, like there's a shift in my brain where like, oh, there's a hidden Reylo in me that hasn't been unlocked yet. It's like, what's this about?
Oh yeah,
and it's funny because you go into Last Jedi and like they get the parentage like out of the way like so fast, and it's just it's handled great and just its exploration. I love how Ryan explains, and I think it's one of the bonus features on the Last Jedi Blu-ray, how like that would be like the easiest answer for her to get, but she just needs to stand on her own 2 feet right now. But also like it doesn't matter. They go into like I was so accepting of the idea of Rey Nobody throughout, especially when like they just like everything's laid out so much to wrap up the sequel trilogy into your own new path. You don't have to rehash because it's like they already like fast tracked all the stuff that you would expect from like Empire Jedi. Like the Emperor type is gone already, and we're already setting up the redemption. It's like a full new path, and again, like no actual connection to parentage, and it's cool with all that setup. And so walking out, I was just like fully on board for Nobody, and I still love it. This Last Jedi shirt, best. And yeah, like I've said it before a lot of times going into The Rise of Skywalker, my first time watching it, I was sitting there, and as soon as they start alluding to like Ochi's ship and all that, I'm like, oh god, no, don't.
Say everybody,
say.
Please don't.
I've seen that ship before. God
yeah,
damn it.
As soon as that happened, I was like, no.
God dang it, no.
I mean, yeah, people had already, I think, pointed out that like the ship model looked the same from like trailers, and I was like, all right, cool. I mean, if it is, whatever. But
yeah.
I expect she would just find like maybe not as far as like her parents' remains, but like like old belongings or something.
There is a theory from like who made it? It was like Jessica on Twitter. She said like how Rey killed her parents, like something like that. I was like, that would have been fantastic. Like, still be
That's
Rey
interesting.
nobody or whatever, and then just like maybe she killed her parents, somebody hid it from her or whatever. That could tease the dark side without having it to be, oh, she's like used Force lightning in dark because she's related to Palpatine. That would have been interesting. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, it would have been interesting, and it would have been cool to have that confrontation type stuff of like light and dark. I mean, there was a point where I was theorizing, I think it was the final Rise of Skywalker trailer. Like, you just get like the hint of Palpatine's cloak approaching Rey. Like, we don't know he's on a crane arm, so I was just thinking, what if that's Dark Side Rey there too, and it's like a final battle type deal.
I would have liked that too.
Yeah, but in terms of like actual like Kenobi. I guess I could have been open to I could have been open to it like in the Force Awakens days, but I was already so set on Skywalker.
These are your first steps.
Yeah, which would be a fair like theory stem, which is a fair theory stem in the terms of like when you go through the whole vision, all of the dialogue from voices you hear are all recycled from past films, except for that new line from Ewan McGregor.
Yeah. Which again goes into how JJ had a lot of like outs he could have taken. He didn't really have a set plan, but if it was Rey Kenobi, he could have been like, "See, I teased it in the Force Awakens,"
and that would have been fair. That would have been fair. Okay, and I was spouting this on Twitter so much. Follow me below, and you can see my rants. I don't rant that much, but I was going on about how Kenobi is just as equal as Palpatine in terms of lineage reveal. I was saying, because a lot of people are like super high. I think I was even getting to it last night on My Cup of Tea, but I don't know if we cut or not. But everybody everybody was going on about like, you know how beautiful it would be if a Kenobi
symmetry
Skywalker, and they couldn't before, and I was like, that's literally what Terrio said about Palpatine. That's not better. It's literally the same thing. You just swapped the character. I mean, I get it because we have a better tie with Obi-Wan, but it doesn't help in any way. It doesn't add to anything. I mean, in terms of the sock, sure, but I mean, at the same time, you're having the same type of fight duel between Rey and Ben over water, contrasted with like the Mustafar fight, which is always a cool parallel I've found because it's like the two deciding, I guess, factors of the galaxy, because one is the fall of the Skywalker, one is the rise of the Skywalker, which is great. But
I agree with that. And like in the sense that people love it because it's all about healing. Or as a Skywalker, people wanted a theme of healing the galaxy, healing the past sins of the Skywalker saga, and that includes the whole conflict between like Kenobi and Skywalker, and everything in the prequel trilogy, which would have been cool, but still, like, it still puts Rey, like you said, Nathan, in terms of being a vessel. Like, it's her responsibility to do all this stuff. When no, it's like, let's set Rey up as a character and have her make these decisions on her own, not because like, so we can say in our heads like, oh, it connects because it's a parallel. It's like, we don't really need those kind of like lineage connections. We can have connections that are just character connections. You know what I mean? Instead of just lineage stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think fundamentally anything that the lineage adds to her character, it can be derived and, built upon it already existing in Ben Solo's character. I think that that's just the haunting of lineage, honestly, and the pressure of it and all of that was already so much ingrained in Ben Solo's character that it's like, why did you feel the need to like level the playing field or like, make it so all of a sudden it's like this powerful duo when it was so kind of resonant that the light chose Rey to just stand up against the big Skywalker. It made so much sense and so much. It made healing sense. Like the Force was literally healing until the rise of Skywalker. Like, and to me, that's why the Last Jedi ending is so powerful. Is because we see that manifesting and spreading out throughout the galaxy. That it's not just this, singular entity that, oh, you must be part of the Skywalker. Like it's going to rise up in different ways, and it's just I don't know. So it goes back and undermines that for me, and I think Kenobi still would have done that for me, despite the little incremental things that I probably would have liked more about it, like parallel-wise, just bringing in some more prequel stuff, because I know we've talked about that of layering the prequel stuff, and of course, JJ said that for years, and really there's not too much that to talk about there. But anyways, I guess my conclusion on this whole situation is when I finally do sit down and watch The Rise of Skywalker again, I'm just
wow.
I just don't know if I'm going to be able.
I'm good.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to like escape it, and just I feel like I'm just going to be thinking about this the whole time. So
yeah, I agree with you, Carson. Like that's the funniest thing about Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams after Tross came out when they were defending their decision. They kept saying like we had to do this because of Rey and like helping out the Skywalker legacy. It's like they omitted the mention of Ben and Kylo.
Literally, I'm like, how are you still blind to that? And Luke is still there to talk to Kylo. It's right.
It's right there. It's like even in the movie after Ben dies, he kind of gets neglected. Doesn't even show towards the end in the Source Code. But then, even in the press conferences after the movie, he doesn't even get mentioned. They mention Leia, Luke, and how Rey being a Palpatine and overcoming darkness and being good despite her evil legacy really helps out the Skywalker legacy. I'm like, you just described Ben Solo. I was like, what are you doing?
I know, the erasure of Skywalker.
Man. About it.
It's unfathomable to me. It's like I can't understand. I can't grasp it. I can't understand it. In a deep, deep, deep recess of my mind, I can see where they're going. But you have a character named Ben Solo who is that person that you're thinking of. You don't need this to be Rey.
It's you're on a time. They're going through the trilogy together, and they're like, "Oh, let's bring back Rey over here, so then she could be on that path." And then it's just like, why are you degrading everything that you've already gone towards?
And if you want that in both of them, then have that play into like the dyad dynamic. I feel like that would be
which wasn't
Well, yeah, have that play into the dynamic, or have it set up in the beginning of the trilogy if they really wanted to do this. Like, to do this for Rey Palpatine or Rey Kenobi in that instance, it just felt like a jip against The Last Jedi at that point. Because, and this is going into the whole planning thing. In terms of J.J. Abrams of it all, there's this quote that I love. I think I still have it saved in my phone. About it was like in 2015 or 2016, like talking about The Force Awakens, and he says like an 11-year-old me, there's this instance of midichlorians or how the Force is strong in lineage. Like that's cool and all, but that's not what my heart really pulls to. And that's why when J.J. Abrams came back, we are like, oh my God, that quote matched with J.J. Abrams coming back for Rise of Skywalker. He made these characters. He understands. Like, he's with Ryan. And because that's what Ryan really built upon, in a sense. Like, he built upon J.J.'s quotes of, like, whoever you're waiting for, they're never coming back. Straight from The Force Awakens, like from Maz's conversation.
He explicitly has so much evidence against his damn self in the movie. I'm sitting here on Twitter for like 3 years being like, oh, you guys don't know JJ. He's been saying this since The Force Awakens day one. I'm like, look at the trailer. I'm no one. He's been saying it since day one. And now I'm sitting here in 2020 looking like a clown.
Man. I heard all the dialogue.
Which makes it seem much more hard to refute that Lucasfilm and JJ were just going against Ontario. We're just going against The Last Jedi. Like, it makes it so hard to refute that, because I really don't. I like JJ Abrams as a person. I mean, I don't know the guy, but I like a lot of his. Yeah, he seems like a cool guy, but just it makes it hard to defend that he's not going against The Last Jedi in the themes that set up. If, like, what he said in The Force Awakens, if what he said even in press conferences connects with The Last Jedi, but since that got a lot of controversy per se, it just feels much more like he's just going against that to appease a certain group of fans. And to that end, he appeased nobody in the end, because I think both sides of the poll here just didn't really agree with what JJ. I mean, granted, there are a lot of people who like Rise of Skywalker. That's obvious. But still, I just think most people, at least for me, it just felt like he didn't know where he was going. There wasn't a really strong theme that connected with the trilogy in itself. The Rise of Skywalker really feels like something of its own that just doesn't really connect with me.
Yeah. Just a final point on the idea of Rey Nobody. Like why it's so weird because like so many people I still hear today are just like, well, I guess it makes sense because the shared power dynamic, and I'm just like, that's not. And I hate it because like that's kind of fills into the same idea. If she ends up being a Kenobi as well, it's like you're only getting the great power because you're connected to other people with great power. Like everybody made that comparison, like, oh yeah, she shoots the lightning just like Palpatine. Like everybody forgot Count Dooku exists, and
that's why I really don't like the lightning scene. It seems so jarring. And I'm like, what's the point of this? Just showcase that she's dark. Like, come on.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I'm certain there is in canon there are Force sensitive children that are born to families that don't have a connection like that.
Right.
The prequel trilogy in general, like
Clone Wars in general, going to get the younglings and everything.
There's thousands of Jedi in the Jedi Council that aren't from big families. All you have really is Anakin, and
I'm pretty sure there was only like one Force sensitive Mandalorian ever. Like,
yeah,
and that's why Anakin was so perplexing in the first place. That's why you see that like Jedi Council, he gets up there as a kid, and they're like, this is out of the ordinary.
I don't have a dad, man.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like the prequel trilogy teaches us, and even in the original trilogy, that like this whole Force lineage thing, it's a burden. It's a burden. So why do you try and, like,
it's fundamentally he misunderstands I am your father moment as like this, as kind of like this meta encompassing thing for all of Star Wars. But really in that moment, Luke is freaking out, man. Like
he's hurting. Yes.
He's hurting. Like it's, I don't know. It's just like how, like, and even when you see him reclaim it in Return of the Jedi, when Luke, throws his saber away and kind of stands up to that. And that's satisfying because it was a burden in the first place. And it was layered in the second movie, not in the third movie where we just get it halfway through the third movie. And it makes no sense to an answer we've already received. That's the issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It didn't, like, Return of the Jedi built upon what Vader said in Empire Strikes Back. This is like having the Empire reveal in the third act of Return of the Jedi. It's like,
and to the point of like of learning from like the previous films, like even I'm not even talking in the sense of like in canon story. I'm talking about like the films that have been distributed to the public. Like they, by The Last Jedi, we have been, and this is the reason like we feel so jaded by The Rise of Skywalker, is because by The Last Jedi, after 3 Disney era Star Wars films, like we have come to learn after following theories for so long, that's not how it pans out. That's not what they're going for, to like just jump into like the rumor mill stuff and like adapt from that. Like we create our own path of storytelling, and it's a much more creative and dynamic thing. But then when you hear that they're bouncing between Palpatine and Kenobi, that's just all the online theory stuff that I've heard for years. And it's just, why did you go that way? Why couldn't you just stick with what you did with Kasdan or Ryan and just
exactly. I'm with you, Nathan, and let's dive into that, because that dives into the whole planning process. Like, why couldn't he just stick to what Kasdan, what Ryan built in the previous movies, what he built in the previous movies? And that's what makes it so jarring, because it's funny. I wrote down in my notes, there's a quote from I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which I was watching the movie. I'm like, this kind of applies to the sequel trilogy.
Oh my god.
Jesse Buckley's character says like, where does he say? Like, something can be planned out, but at the same time not thought out. And that's the sense here. It's like you can plan something, like, but it doesn't mean that like just because it's planned, that means it's going to be better. Like a lot of the complaints after Daisy's quote was like, "Oh, they didn't plan it. This is what happened. That's why The Rise of Skywalker sucks, because they didn't plan anything. Like they had this whole $4.5 billion franchise. They didn't plan anything. Come on, like." Even if JJ had done this whole trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker shows that even if he planned it out, it might not have been thought out. Like, it might not have been, like, meaningful. It might not have been, we still could have gotten, like, a Rey Palpatine and Rey Kenobi, and we go back to the argument we just had, in the sense that it just wouldn't work for what Rey as a character needed, what the sequel trilogy needed as a refresh, as a just a cleansing of the sins of the Skywalker saga, like thus far. And yeah, it's like
it's so damn ironic that this whole the man has even said it himself in interviews. This whole sequel trilogy is about coping with the sins of the past and kind of taking into account what has happened in the past, and now that conflict is thrown onto these new characters again, and yet they make the same damn mistake in the third movie. We're just going round and round. What are we doing?
And that's what I was thinking, like right before we were going live. Is just I was saying earlier, the like it felt like we already like fast tracked the associative identity of the original trilogy, because obviously Force Awakens has such a deep connective tie to A New Hope. But yeah, it felt like Last Jedi like fast tracked the best qualities of Empire and Jedi to carve your own path, and then it felt like we just kind of like returned to the Jedi again. Rise Skywalker in some weird ways, because we didn't
return anything. We returned to
I know.
I don't even know. Exegol, something.
No, we played Rise probably. I mean, I don't know how you think like, yeah, let's have 2 throne room confrontations back to back. Like that's odd.
Incredibly
there's
odd.
so much. But yeah, like connectivity of power is like it shouldn't be based on lineage, because then you have to sit down with theorists and be like, who's Broom Kid connected to? And it's like, that doesn't matter. That was never the point of Broom Kid. It's just that there's other
the point of Star Wars.
For real.
If we're sitting here being like, well, actually, we trace it back to Attack of the Clones. I mean, admittedly, we all get nerdy like that sometimes.
Yeah.
But I will go back to the George Lucas quote about at Celebration. If it doesn't boil down to you getting the themes that could be digested to a 12-year-old, but still be complex enough to understand and apply to your own life and your own kind of, your own destiny towards being the hero in your own life, then there's no point in overcomplicating it and leaving the latter part behind, because then it's nothing. If you don't have it distilled into something that can speak volumes to something other than just the answer itself, then there's no point in filling in the blank in the first place. And so that's why I just get so frustrated about the end of the trilogy, is because it feels very much like a fill in the blank answer to something that's already been answered, and something that doesn't even build on what the characters were they at in their respective journeys. And so that's why it just falls flat on its face for me.
Fully agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so just to wrap up this topic, I ran a poll, which I think was the most voted poll we've had so far. And I was in such anguish, because like
every episode will now be about parentage.
Yeah, you can read the anguish in my fingertips. I was just like, I feel I must ask. Ray,
wow,
you're a ... And I gave options. Tied for 5% each are Palpatine and other, for just a fill in the blank quote, which is probably Skywalker. 16% said Kenobi. Resounding 74% said nobody.
Oh, we know our audience. That's nice.
Very nice. Very nice.
Beautiful.
I had somebody write in Skywalker. I had myself write in just nobody, and a dude wrote in my father, brothers, cousins, nephews, former roommate. Baseball reference. It's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was awesome. But yeah,
and I've seen that in other polls as well, like other random Star Wars or movie Twitter accounts asking the same exact poll, and with a resounding success, Rey Nobody is up in the top of each poll. Because I think it just makes a lot of sense. Even people who didn't like The Last Jedi, I think even they would agree the whole Rey Nobody compared to Rey Palpatine or Rey Kenobi is just like, it just doesn't work. And to cap this all off, like planning things are cool, but in the terms of the sequel trilogy, I think Rian Johnson wrote off The Force Awakens in a great way, and all JJ had to do was go off of what Ryan had done. It's like, you don't need to plan everything out. It's not completely necessary, as long as you could just go off of what the previous film did. That's all we're looking for.
And that is what I think fundamentally, this boils down to Rian Johnson wrote a story that continues the heart of the writing of The Force Awakens.
Yes.
And J.J. Abrams wrote a sequel to the Last Jedi that fundamentally reacts to the bigger picture of the world reacting to the movie
Yes.
as a whole versus the actual story that was, continued in The Last Jedi. And so that's why it's disappointing, is because it feels like he was drowning in open water. He kind of succumbed to the pressure of everything instead of, making a confident choice as a storyteller. Regardless of what it actually was, it felt like it was based off of drowning from the reactions of everything that happened post Last Jedi versus actually making creative liberty to, do something.
Yes, and we didn't nail this home enough. Like Daisy really said, like this was the discussions JJ was going on during filming, and that's the most depressing part of it. Like if he had come into right after Last Jedi and wrote down Rey Palpatine, like we still have the same argument we just had. But the thing of during filming, that just makes it so depressing towards the actors, towards everybody involved. It just makes it seem very like unprofessional and like
right. And this movie was rushed.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it goes into what you said, Carson, in terms of being rushed. But even if it was rushed, which it was, JJ still could have wrote a story having Rey. I would rather have a rushed Rise of Skywalker with a good theme than a rushed Rise of Skywalker with a bad theme.
Right.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
At the end of the day, J.J. Abrams was announced to do the Rise of Skywalker in September of 2017, and they didn't start shooting until August of 2018. So if we,
that's a
you see what I mean? Like, I know it's obviously writing a whole screenplay and doing all the pre-production. I mean, it's insane, but also it's a matter of sitting down in a room and figuring this out for a couple weeks as Rian Johnson distilled his, first kind of pitch on his napkins and his little notepad and over the course of about 2 months. So, you would think that process would lead them down somewhere else, but it didn't.
Yeah. I think that's a good place.
That's a great place to end it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, to that point. We're going to be jumping next into Mandalorian stuff. But before we do, we had a bit of a complication. Just in terms of
complication, you'd say. What happened?
Oh yeah. Well, it turned into a game, honestly. I'm actually gonna share my screen. So just to give a quick set story, this past weekend, Gina Carano has been overly active on Twitter in regards to some views that are not. They're dangerous, man, especially with her popularity.
They're not widely acceptable.
Yeah, it's scary because effectively she's promoting just all about like choice and rights and stuff of like respecting everybody, even though like some people's opinions are quite deadly and there is a horrible virus in the world. So a lot of us, especially in our group chat, were just like shocked because like randomly like one or two of us got like blocked and we were like, no way, what, for real? Like just for speaking up to like goodness, like come on. And then it turned into a game where it's just like, can I get blocked next? Like, would she actually find every single one of us? And it was funny because at a point, it wasn't like everybody else was getting blocked. I wasn't. I think I like tried at least like 2 or 3 times. I can't give you a specific tweet that I
tried.
I tried. I was like, and it was funny because I also like through Hyperspace Twitter account as well. Like that got blocked first before me, and that was after I said stuff. And I was like, what
did we tweet? What did we say?
I didn't even retweet. I quote tweet. I'm gonna showcase them.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I'll give up the share screen.
But let me just preface this whole thing of like,
okay,
this isn't just like the Star Wars community like probing her. This is literally just like people saying like, maybe be considerate of others' opinions, and also this virus is more indicative of people's family members dying. And of course, you can hold your own opinion about this, but you're actively using your platform to, one, she's spreading misinformation on her Instagram stories about just
Yes.
statistics about other medical phenomenons, which she's like, is it really a pandemic? And she's putting like the word pandemic in quotes as if it's not something that has weight. And she's isolating certain Black Lives Matters incidents to down to the incidents of where something bad happens to where it's one person kind of breaking the continuity of all the rest of the peaceful protesters, and she's singling out those things as like I'm saying that's the definition of everybody that's protesting. And just kind of the way she's leveraging her platform right now is scary. And it's not even a political thing. Like we don't even need to get political about it. It's just like
It's just moral. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like you need to do better. And I think as a community, the Star Wars fans were just like, hey, this is concerning. And they weren't even like, nobody was jumping to slurs and calling her name. It's like, hey, like maybe you should consider this, or maybe wearing a mask, it's cool. Like it wasn't like remotely aggressive or anything. And she spent the entire afternoon just blocking people. So I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's her answer to her problems of ignorance is bliss, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying to my thing too. Is like, yeah, I said like I wasn't blocked, but then like, and I'll get into instance because I haven't saved that. Like, she circled back and found me. And we weren't like we weren't a small handful, like just like instigating this. Like there were a lot of people engaging. Like, what are you doing? But like, I'm gonna just queue up on the screen right now. It makes it so we're all here. Okay, yeah, just jumping over here. Like from Noah, he was like, "Can't wait for season 2," and he photoshopped the mask here. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah, the Black Lives Matter. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I mean, humorous. Like, yeah, wear a mask, man. But he got blocked.
Wow.
Preston called her out for blocking somebody who brought up how they had family lost, and then he was subsequently blocked right after as well, which is horrible. Carson was like, wearing a mask, do you speak it? After she said a similar thing, and he played off that. I think it was actually said here.
That was pretty good.
But yeah.
She posted like the Samuel L. Jackson picture.
Oh yeah,
from...
was it like freedom of choice or something.
Right, and it's just like all these weird things of like even her tweet about like I don't care if you're this or this. It kind of reminds me of someone that's just like it's like you can't be colorblind or like itchy blind in the world.
So
like it is the worst.
It's the worst
defense ever. Like
I don't see color. Then F you then, yeah.
You have to see color. Like that's
yes. Yeah.
the issue.
It's that same kind of line of thinking where she says like, "Oh, you could be tall, black, white, purple, blue." I'm like, stop saying that. It's like it's not that simple.
It's more ignorant to say that than to just
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. AJ was like, wear a mask and physical distance. Where's my block? He straight up called out for it. And he got it. Josh is like, believing science, not acting like a child by blocking half your fan base for calling you out.
Like this like this isn't March. We're in August. This pandemic is a real thing. And
we should also side note is in the midst of all these stories and tweets that she's posting, she's also simultaneously doing promo for the damn show, posting all the pictures from the EW article.
We're just
and like
picking up with the
I put my heart and soul into it, but also fuck your science. Like, okay, Gina Carano, like what do you
and then from our hyperspace, I was just like punching directly down at the tweet, just like, we at Hyperspace Hype unanimously agree you need to wear a mask. And she blocked me. So
it makes no sense.
Anyways,
that was
it's not even like it's not even like a news situation. It's just like sometimes when you feel like somebody has a platform and they're misusing, I guess just sometimes, and especially because especially her damn character too in the show is what is she, an ex-shock trooper, right?
Yeah.
She literally wears the resistance tattoo under her eye. It's like maybe let's take little context clues here,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel bad for anybody who actually committed to that tattoo because they liked her character, and then she's doing this. Like, it's horrible.
Right.
But
And of course, actors are not their characters, but you need to be mindful of how your words affect people, and especially younger audiences of the Mandalorian too, because they're certainly on social media and digesting all of this information. So I worry for like the 12 and 13-year-olds. They're on here like, oh, Gina Carano is saying this is a virus and not this. Like, it's just concerning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I said this before. It's like it's really hard to disassociate a actor from the performance, because you have to like focus on the actor themselves giving that performance, like stare at the face, and like it's the whole reason like I'm afraid to revisit Baby Driver, like even though that was one of my favorite films, like just in light of stuff. And like it'll be the same here. It's like I'll see Cara Dune, but I just know in the back of my brain the person giving the performance is like of such bad ideals.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, it's been a week, right? Like, she hasn't turned around on anything. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't released a statement, or she hasn't like considered the challenges to her beliefs at all. It's just more blocking, which is not nice.
I'm waiting for the absolute hero of a reporter that grills her on a question during a Zoom call. For a promo for the Mandalorian, and it's absolutely. I know someone's gonna do it, because someone will.
I don't think so. I hope so.
Someone will get angry enough, and someone will ask, and it will be awkward for whoever, Favreau or whoever's also on the call. But like,
oh gosh,
she needs to speak her mind if she's gonna, stand by her stance. So I mean,
I fully believe she has like Lucasfilm Disney agents or whatever saying like, if they ask you about this, don't say anything. Say Baby Yoda or whatever. Say code words or whatever. Whenever somebody asks you about this.
I mean, I feel bad. I was saying this before. I feel bad for like Filoni, who I'm sure is like, spent so much time developing her character to a meaningful point, and like now we as an audience are gonna sit there to watch that, and it's like good for Dave and his storytelling, but like now we have to see it through a lens that is a lot more negative just because of what she said.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay. So anyway, The Mandalorian.
Do you guys have the article pulled up? The EW article? Anybody want to screen share that?
We can though. Also, it was.
You want me to pull it up?
Sure. Yeah. There are some interesting quotes there.
They are.
Yeah. And that was also subsequently interesting that once again Star Wars news is dropping around the time an actor is saying stuff. But in the case of John Boyega, it was rightfully so, whereas this was just nonsense. But people are jumping more defense to Gina than John, and that's not okay.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen.
Queuing it up. We're a professional podcast.
Yeah. There's some great air. But yeah, I liked a lot of the photos. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we go.
So there we got the first big picture here.
Clean. That's the exact photo I used for the thumbnail.
So was this on here in season 1, or am I going crazy?
Yeah, it was in the
end of season 1,
last
right?
episode.
Yep.
It was
episode 8.
You got the sign of the Mudhorn.
Right. So yeah, let's dig into some of the quotes.
Okay.
I like these quotes about Favreau, like realizing how big of the phenomenon it was. It hadn't even aired in Europe, and just the buzz of Baby Yoda, and just like it's just crazy. Like to honestly hear it from their perspective. I know we've heard it in the Mandalorian doc, but this is interesting nonetheless to kind of see and break down. Obviously, it brings up Iron Man again and all the holiday special stuff, of course.
Every freaking article. In 2008, I did Iron Man, and it's like, we get it, Favreau.
And so here's another picture, and then I love the quotes about like Filoni, like being that all of wisdom, George Lucas, Padawan, the all-knowing guy who's gonna like keep him in check.
I love that the characters look like so like
Scroll back up to the image. So we've been saying for a long time, for months now, since season 1 ended, like what kind of ship did Moff Gideon arrive from? Because in episode 8 or 7 or 8, he was on the hologram and he's like standing up talking to Werner Herzog's character. But then he comes down in episode 8 on a TIE ship. I'm like, you can't really stand in that thing. So where was he communicating from? So we're
that picture of him is 100% in the Star Destroyer.
Star Destroyer.
We called it, guys. We've talked about this for weeks.
Dude, and I didn't even realize either, but somebody in our group chat was saying, like, if you look back at the George Lucas Baby Yoda photo, that, like, in the background, it looks like there's a set-built bridge of a Star Destroyer on set, which was, it's not included in these.
Here it is.
Really cool. Yeah,
I mean, come on.
That's Imperial as hell.
It's super Imperial. It's like, that could be some kind of Imperial station or whatever, but no. I'm pretty positive they're going to be on the Star Destroyer, which is so fascinating. Oh, stop it. It's a Rogue One. Rogue One, they're super old now.
Decommissioned Star Destroyer that's like falling apart. I'm so ready. That's what I want and need it because it's perfect.
That'd be awesome. And it looks like...
I would love if like the ship was just like faulty with like a bad engine or something. It just makes for a more like compelling like pursuit across the galaxy.
Yeah, because like in the Empire Strikes Back, the heroes are always the one with faulty ships, not really the Empire. And that'd be really cool to see the Empire roaming around with can't do hyperdrive or whatever. They have faulty ships after the Battle of Jakku. That would be fun.
Yeah, and here's the hint here. So also quickly mention the Darksaber thing. He talks about they're going to have a showdown of sorts, and that's nothing new. We've been hearing about that for months, but
that kind of like sways me to believe that that's going to be the because I was kind of anticipating like anybody could go up against Moff Gideon in terms of like a sword fight, but I feel like it's going to be definitely Mando now.
See, yeah, I like that. What's it called? He owns a larger vehicle. Hint, hint, like Star Destroyer. We know that. But then
one-on-one time with the child. We called that as well. We said Baby Yoda would definitely going to be taken at some point in this season.
At the end, yeah, this is going to be Empire Strikes Back. He's going to end. Baby Yoda is ending the season in the hands of Moff Gideon. That is my
give me
theory.
The Camino scientist backstory.
Yeah,
not the full backstory.
I'm just going to highlight that quote right now because that goes back to the first story we were talking about. We have to be responsible when we are telling a story with what we are deciding to do. The fans want to know things are a calculated, careful decision. Then, if you tell a good story, most of the time they go with it. Perfect quote.
This feels very like so fast, like next to all the stories that broke. Oh, that's funny, but yeah, that's fantastic.
Here's Filoni talking about more season 2 stuff. Talking about how the child is, now a phenomenon. Offset now, so it's even weirder because he's literally a movie star, quality. But here's another big tidbit: is George Lucas visited the season 2 set and was coaching Filoni, and I absolutely love this whole thing about him telling him to go faster and being the little boxing coach in the corner, like, hey, you got to get to this setup, you got to do this, because it's like just full circle from Clone Wars and George hiring him. And I think about their first interview that Dave kind of recounted on in the Mando documentary series. Then to hear this full circle of George just like coaching him is absolutely hilarious.
I love their relationship between George and Filoni so much. Like just hearing this or reading that whole paragraph, it reminds me of like a father comes to school, like come to see how his student is doing, how his son is doing.
Bring your dad to work day.
Exactly. Bring your dad to work day. And he just like, hey, you can do this better, right? Hey, son, you can do this. Like, I love their relationship so much. Dave really is like the protege to George Lucas here. And I like that he went back for season 2, and I assume he'll be back for multiple other seasons of The Mandalorian as well, just helping Dave with directing. It's the kind of thing I love to see. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure this is interesting.
I'm sure George was like, look, I loved episode 5.
I bet he did. I know. Yeah.
I know. This is based off the droid arc, but yeah.
Who's Karga? Oh, Grief Karga. Okay.
Yeah, Great Karga got grown closer to Cara Dune to the point where they almost finish each other's sentences. So,
this is interesting. So, what's the time skip from season 1 to season 2? Is there a big time skip?
See, you say that, but remember how I've been speculating that they're gonna get captured like immediately? I think they're gonna like bond during getting captured.
Prison.
That's my prediction.
That's a great
That's a
theory.
good
I
call.
like that because I'm always like, wait, how you finishing each other's sentences? You guys hardly knew each other in season
yeah.
one.
Weren't you gonna kill each other? Like,
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I like that. They seem like they're two characters at least. They seem very prone to have some cool chemistry.
absolutely.
I'm very cool to see that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Cool costume.
So then some Pascal quotes about refining the performances and the gesturing and all the voice stuff and all those little things that make him a compelling character. And I hope we see we're gonna see more unmasked Pedro in this season. You have to.
Oh yeah, please.
And then I wanted to go to the part about so here we got to look at this beautiful cover first of all.
Oh, it's great. Mandalorian Strikes Back. Every
Love it.
Star Wars sequel
But-
is Empire Strikes Back.
as Strikes Back, but I'll find it, but we'll just keep it on the glorious cover for a second. So Favreau is directing the premiere of this season 2.
Cool, and he didn't
which is
direct
cool.
any of the
He didn't
First-
direct any of season 1,
right.
which is awesome. And then Carl Weathers is directing an episode.
Oh wow.
So that's 2 right there. Carl Weathers, Jon Favreau,
And then
did
they mention Rodriguez
Mm-hmm.
and obviously Filoni, and then we know Peyton Reed, but he's oddly not mentioned in the article, which I thought was kind of weird.
Is Peyton Reed confirmed? I think he is, right?
Yeah, he tweeted out a picture
he's
of his
confirmed.
chair
Robert
on set.
Rodriguez,
Okay.
is
So
confirmed.
how many male directors? Is that 5 right there? Male directors for the show?
Yeah.
And they didn't even discuss. Did they say?
I bet Bryce Dallas Howard did an episode again. Where?
Yeah. I'm thinking about it now. I don't know if Deborah would be on it if she's doing.
I don't think
Kenobi.
she is. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. This paragraph here. So they had less startup costs, which is interesting tech stuff because they had it sounds like they had a bigger amount of their budget to kind of go up on screen because obviously building the volume was just a huge amount of startup costs and all that. So once again, 8 episodes of different lengths. This time he says there's even variation, so we won't have any of those like weird short,
27 minutes.
27 minutes or whatever. Rick Famuyiwa is confirmed. Carl Weathers is
Great.
confirmed.
Great.
So is that 6 male
1,
directors?
2, 3.
Wait, did
4,
you say
5.
there's a
It
set?
is 6. Yeah.
Did you say there's a set runtime for each episode, or
Even
see the-
variation.
right, even variation between the runtimes.
Not
Okay.
set, but yeah. So yeah, we have Famuyiwa, Carl Weathers, Robert Rodriguez, Jon Favreau,
Peyton
Filoni, that's 5,
And
then
Peyton Reed.
That's 6.
I
7,
gotta think Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce
7.
Dallas Howard has to be 1, and then somebody else could double up, so we could get another
Yeah.
Filoni
George Lucas?
or another Famuyiwa. So yeah, I think it's disappointing slightly.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna say Filoni definitely directed 2 of them. I think they
I think
want
so
to get
too.
him.
I think I heard about that somewhere, but he's doing the Ahsoka episode, of course,
100%.
Definitely.
which is discussed in this article, right?
Yes.
Is it discussed
They
as a
bring up
rumor?
rumor of like the
Yeah.
casting characters, which
So it didn't confirm. It's just saying the rumors. Yeah.
I imagine if Star Wars let them run with that though, to give them these exclusive photos, and maybe there's some way
This
to
paragraph right here.
Yeah. Okay. So Rosario Dawson, it's fan favorite Jedi apostate. Weird phrasing there.
Was it a
Ahsoka,
pot? Yeah. Tamara Morrison, either Boba Fett or a clone. Katie
Katie
Sackhoff?
Sackhoff.
Which
yeah.
Lucasfilm approves these kind of articles, so
They totally do.
it's
yeah.
We're gonna probably just see him straight up in the trailers then.
Yeah, I think
And-
all these characters are trailer characters.
Yep. And also, I just want to say a really interesting thing in the article, at least what interested me the most, is them talking about the new season introducing a larger world. It's gonna be the larger scope is kind of gonna build into new storytelling angles, and as we introduce other characters, there are opportunities to follow different storylines. How do you guys feel about it becoming even more split up and following people around and becoming a larger scope show compared to how focused and kind of anthology the first season was.
Well, that's an interesting point because whenever I think of Filoni's previous work, obviously like Clone Wars is great, but I love Rebels even more because you stay so tied with the characters throughout the running season. And granted, Rebels does this. I think they'll probably do a similar thing with Rebels. How like obviously you follow the Rebels crew, but sometimes you'll get more emphasis on the Jedi stuff or the Mandalorian stuff, or surprise, here's a Zeb episode, stuff like that.
Yeah, like Rebels, I think Rebels is a perfect TV show in general. But like Nathan said, like it did have that anthology feel to it, but less so because you're sticking with all these same characters going on a singular journey. But one episode they could be trying to dismantle a satellite dish like they do in season 3, and then the next episode they go into fighting Thrawn. But it all ties into the Thrawn story arc that builds into the finale.
Definitely.
Same thing going on here, hopefully, which I like. One of my criticisms.
He mentions Game of Thrones here, though, which is interesting because that show, Favreau quotes Game of Thrones here. He says the world was really captivated by Game of Thrones and how that evolved as the characters followed different storylines. That's very appealing to me as an audience member. So that's interesting for me, at least, because I think you guys are right. It would kind of, it wouldn't just like sway all over the place. It'd still be focused in the sense that it was, people split off on their paths leading towards the same kind of general idea or storyline point. But it is interesting to hear him, see how season 2 is possibly going to and probably will expand really rapidly.
Yeah, I like that quote a lot too. It's funny he mentions Game of Thrones because whenever we talked about the Solo, make Solo 2 theory or whatever, I always mentioned Game of Thrones because Solo 2 would have Han, Chewie, Kira, a lot of different characters in different parts of the world having their own storyline but connecting. But anyways, I'm very happy with season 2 becoming less isolated because one of my only criticisms with season 1 was that it was like great episode, but they were also very, very isolated. And they did build a lot of character for Mando, but they didn't build upon the story in a sense. So I'm happy that they're going to have their own flavor, but build into a larger scope of the story of the show and of just the Star Wars world in general. I'm excited to see how many different like worlds we're going to see this time around, how many different planets and stuff like that.
I agree. And just like to further extend on that point, you look back at the season 1 of Mandalorian and you think like episode 5 was strictly specific Tatooine locations we knew. Episode 6, even though that I think it works best there, it's all isolated specifically on that one ship to another ship. And then you're primarily in the cantina in the underground sewer system in the finale and stuff like that. So it definitely or the village. Like I said, they're all very isolated, like single or 2 locations. And I feel like this is a better chance to stem off, like we said with Rebels. We'll probably get instances where we follow the Ahsoka stuff for the more Force-sensitive Baby Yoda topics, or we'll go this way with the other Mandalorians, whether that's Boba Fett or Bo-Katan, exploring that stuff. And then also the set existing probably Tatooine stuff, because I think we're now confirmed that we're back on Tatooine with these photos.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just about to mention, what do you guys think of them going back to Tatooine, just like the Rise of Skywalker, the beautiful,
I think we're
peaceful Tatooine.
I think we're definitely going to get the what's the character's name from the Aftermath novels?
Cobb Vanth.
Cobb Vanth. Yeah.
I think he'll definitely be the set character that we interact with on Tatooine, as well as probably Boba Fett if we're definitely going to go that route, and that should be fun. I think it'll be more fun than episode 5.
I agree.
I also I think to that point too, shared like with this article stuff, Ming-Na Wen was like singing praise for Mandalorian. I think she's probably going to be back, like I anticipated.
Oh, 100%.
How is she back? She got shot.
Cloning. I don't know.
Hey,
she got shot. Point blank range.
We have clones, man. It's not impossible.
Don't mention clones around me. I can't stand.
Look, we barely knew her. We don't know.
We did. They wasted her character. That's a fact.
Or did
they?
Can no one survive a blaster shot? I don't know.
And Kylo Ren did.
Maybe she's not completely human. Maybe she's a cyborg. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but yeah, I'm super excited to see her back after seeing her for like 20 seconds in Mulan. So.
Yeah. What was it gonna say? Yeah, it's so funny because earlier this year I kept saying like I don't think Moff Gideon can put up a fight with the Mandalorian or any of these characters. He's too old, but I've totally switched on that. Like he keeps mentioning,
and look at even
article,
this compels me, trying to lure our heroes down darker paths.
That's
very interesting.
Me.
A source of temptation. So it's like, again,
I was theorizing an instance of that for Mando, but I thought it would come from like Boba Fett, in contrast to like Bo-Katan and like the honor of the Mandalorian.
Yeah, what
or just all the different Mandalorians. Like we always said, like all the different lifestyles, the different Mandalorians are going to be showcased in this season are going to be tempting to kind of pull him out of the, either the bounty hunter life or the strict code that he's adhering to, that he kind of like acclimated as he grew up in that society or whatever. Those places were going to all be tempting him, and we even see that in season 1 with the village and all that, of like escaping it all and that kind of stuff. But this is interesting because this makes me think that they have a layered answer for what Baby Yoda really means for the Empire, and like maybe he gives them an ultimatum regarding that, like something that I don't know. It's very fascinating, and I like that I'm stuck on that point because it adds some characterization that I didn't know Moff Gideon had in him, and I'm excited that we get a deeper layer to his character like that.
That's the thing, right? Like Moff Gideon, you get the sense that Din Djarin kind of knows of him, as we see in episode 8. He knows like he did all these bad things to the Mandos. What kind of then temptation could he pose to Mandalorian? Like we can't again see like, oh, is Mando really going to care for Baby Yoda? Is he going to give Baby Yoda to Moff Gideon? We know he's not.
Right.
So.
I'll give you 500,000 gold bars if you give us Baby Yoda. Like that would just be telegraphed. And like,
I think there could actually be, I think you'll probably get a scene where like we're in the full infiltration for like a rescue of Baby Yoda after he's been captured, and they could go the route of like he's trying to like sway him to like, with his set power that he has, he can like set him over this way, have a comfortable life, even like lie and promise him that like they'll return the child to him and stuff. But I don't know.
I don't know. It just seems like that kind of course, I don't think so either. Like there wouldn't be a hint in my mind saying like, oh, Mando's gonna leave Baby Yoda. That's just not going to happen.
No.
So I wonder what kind of thing does Gideon have up his sleeve?
It's so
it could
interesting.
Be a
I would love a scene, like threat, or like I would love like a kind of a meaty political scene where maybe Mando gets captured and he brings him into a big conference room and is like, "Oh, would you like a drink?" Like, and it's just like tempting him. Maybe he like reveals against the wall that there's some like Mandalorian helmets that he's kept as like keepsake from the Night of 1,000 Tears, and he's just taunting them or honestly, something like that.
There could even be like a great opportunity to like you could have Baby Yoda captured and use that as leverage for Mando to do a job for Moff Gideon. I think
that's interesting. Yes,
I can see that happening as well. Also, I think they're going to dive into the fact that Mando was a foundling. Like this is a person that wasn't originally a Mandalorian. Moff Gideon does have the Darksaber. Can you try and tempt him to be like, I can help you restore order to your world? I can help you.
Which is ironic because obviously Gideon isn't native to the Darksaber. Like it's very much an adhered identity that he bestowed upon himself. We don't know how yet, but that's interesting to play off between the two. So I really like this angle with all of it.
You can try and instead of tempting him with a child, he can tempt him with the Mando lifestyle, the one that he always wanted, the one that he's trying to create after the finale. He's trying to have that. What's it called? The clan of 2 right now, just him and 2. But like, what if you can try and tempt him, be like, hey, I can help you restore the Mandos to what they really were. All I really need is the child. So that can try and like.
I'm getting excited, guys.
I need this.
It's been a while. Guys. It's been a while. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
We haven't really talked about Mandalorian lately because there's just been a dead zone besides trailer rumors and since March, April.
and now we have actual stuff to go off of, which is even better. So yeah, it'll be a time. A fun time.
I'm hoping we get the trailer within the next 2 weeks. I'm thinking, maybe even sooner.
I believe we were suggested the date of the 6th,
possibly
14th?
Monday, but
the 14th. Yeah. So we'll definitely be looking out for that.
Monday Night Football, I believe, maybe.
Yeah, which I think is possible. I mean, I think it's 100% possible when like. I was like looking on Twitter. Trey said that he just saw a TV spot for Dune on football.
Oh my gosh,
which is great. I mean, if they'll do Dune, they'll do Mando. Like, especially if it's through like ESPN.
You know what? That's really encouraging that there's TV spots for Dune. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so
they're
that's
going forward.
Yeah, I think that about does that there. Only other thing I really have to discuss is the results for the Finn poll.
Yes.
Yeah. So I forgot I'm in power. So just to
be on article.
Just to that point, as of recording this right now, we were expected to record tomorrow like normal. So there's still another 20 hours left on this poll. If you want to shift the tide, if you're not happy, you want to just bomb it, but
go win the war, as what is Blue or whatever that guy is from. Who will pay you? Go win the war.
Win the war, Bulio. Yeah. I have his Lego figure. It's crazy. he was in the Millennium Falcon set. So yeah. But yeah. In the last week we were talking our favorite Finn moments, and I asked, what is your favorite Finn moment out of these four? Or reply if you have another. So our results: 6% said the sacrifice on Crate.
Wow, that's a little disheartening. Even though I didn't vote for it, but I thought that would get a lot more.
I thought so too. That's a great moment. That was a defining moment for his character. But okay.
14% said Finn. I like that. The name and
the Poe one.
The TIE fighter. Yeah, it's a great moment.
Great
at
moment.
35%, I'm so close. Is the Rebel Scum.
Ooh.
Okay.
I was really digging, and winning it at 44% is "Come Get It," the saber fight.
Come and get it.
Nice. I think that's what I voted for.
Yeah, there's still time. There's still time to change.
Nathan can get to his alternate accounts and just change the tone.
Start beefing up the 6% one. Get it up there.
Only write-in we got was from Caesar. He was saying the traitor fight in Force Awakens.
Traitor fight is so cool.
So cool.
Yeah. You don't have I don't have a weapon. You have one, and he just ignites it. Oh, I love that.
Classic.
Dude, the ignition is so intense. I love it. The hum of it and just the lighting. It's beautiful.
You can like feel the weight on it on Finn's hands in that scene.
Oh yeah, like the true power and just like the swing of it, like two-handed, impaling and everything. God, it's so good.
Cool.
It was such a like mind-blowing. I remember such a mind-blowing thing at the time. The concept of like what a stormtrooper can block a lightsaber. That's insane. What a concept. Now I feel like we've seen everything, even though we keep getting new stuff. Like I would have said like, oh yeah, we've definitely seen everything by the time we see something like the dyad connection, Last Jedi. But then out of nowhere, Mando's like force heal. Like, what? So everything's possible. Yeah, I still contend Rebel Scum, the best moment. But
Rebel Scum is so cool. I love that one.
It's perfect.
But yeah, the saber fight is quite great, even though he goes down fast. But
that's the one that made John Boyega flip in his couch.
For sure, man. Absolutely. Like, that's super mean.
I love that.
I would definitely say though that I feel like Rebel Scum is like the step up from that, because it's like he's not the defeated one anymore. He's like taking back the reins from his commanding officer and stuff, and again embracing the resistance side instead of just trying to like randomly find this place in the world. Like, it's here. I am Rebel Scum. It's phenomenal. But yeah, I'd say that about does it. I think it's good to like wrap up an earlier hyperspace. So
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
earlier one.
I figure
we can go for another hour, like my cup of tea.
Oh yeah,
review a movie, guys.
Yeah, what is the history of the Darksaber? We just go down.
Oh my gosh.
When did Maul lose it? Did Gideon take it, then Bo-Katan, and then that's the connection?
Oh,
What's
My
up
brain.
with that?
I'm already exhausted having to say that, but you know.
there's already going to be a Screen Rant article. We're going to see it in the first episode of The Mandalorian.
gosh.
Darksaber's going to pop up again. Need to brush up on your Darksaber history? Find out now on Screen Rant.
Find out next time.
My name is on Screen Rant. That's crazy.
I forgot when we made that Rise of Skywalker extended trailer. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're famous, Nathan. You're famous.
I'm prefer to be more recognized by the other articles around the world. I think that's better. But yeah. Anyway, I'm just clinging to my fame from a year ago. You remember me? Yeah. Great time here on Hyperspace Hype. We had a blast. I feel short and sweet. We're probably gonna think of the poll next week. Take a break now. But again, always a poll can prop up from any type of news. So again, follow us all of our social medias link in the description below. But to that specifics, Carson, where can the good people find you?
You guys can find me over on Twitter at the Film Carson, talking about Dune, mostly Dune, and some other Dune stuff. Yes, until the Mandalorian season 2 trailer drops, I'll probably be talking about Dune, the Batman, other movie news, maybe Tenet. Now that more people have seen it, haven't really seen many people talk about spoilers yet on Twitter, but I'm hoping they have some good Twitter threads about all those theories that we talked about yesterday on My Cup of Tea. You should totally go check that out if you've seen Tenet, because that was a blast, and we were all just ranting about everything in that movie because there's so much to unpack. So if you want to just hear a fun time of us breaking it all down or attempting to, check that out, and we'll be back next week on My Cup of Tea. I'm sure there'll be some even more movie news and stuff. So yeah, can't wait.
Evan, where can the good people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. Last week, we had a poster for The Mandalorian. This week, we get an EW article about The Mandalorian. Next week, I hope I can come back here and we can discuss The Mandalorian Season 2 trailer. Could be dead wrong. You never know. I hope that's what happens. But besides that, you can find me on Twitter talking all things Big Brother. Huge fan of that. Not the best season, but come through the roller coaster of emotions with me. And yeah, watching a lot of movies and doing this stuff. So find me there.
Yeah, and as always, you can find me all my social medias linked in the description below. I've done an animation now, at least a little test, which is fun. Little sneak preview of what's to actually come in my realm of storytelling, which I'm very excited to do. I had a whole panel discussion type deal with my co-lead that isn't Carson, and we were just breaking down character, and that was great. I did bring up the idea that Carson had though of the thoughts of doing table reads and stuff and working off.
I am a Palpatine. That is a
Right.
spoiler for the show.
Oh gosh.
I mean, look, when I do connections, it's going to be actually meaningful and set from the get-go. So, but yeah, no, I'm definitely going to be getting with Carson and all that, and we're going to be. I mean, we're the primary voices for the first episode anyway, so that'll be fun. But if you want more info on that, check my pinned tweet. And with that being said, if you did enjoy our podcast, please hit the like button, subscribe if not already. And that being said, I hope you have a great day, and may the force be with you always.